engineer from the IIT Delhi and now a master certified coach from the ICF, Marshall Goldsmith certified coach and the India partner for Marshall Goldsmith certification programs, founder and the lead trainer of the Grow More Coach Model program, a master NLP practitioner from Dr. Richard Bandler, USA. He has trained over 500 professionals to get certified as a Grow More Life coach, has empowered over 1,000 managers and leaders with coaching skills, and has helped several people to achieve their desired objectives by personally coaching them. As a coach, he helps people improve their performance and the quality of life. I have with me a master coach and a trainer, Inderjeet Singh. So are you ready to get coached? Thank you, Inderjeet, for coming on the platform and taking our time. We're very, very thankful to you.
Thank you, Samira, for having me here. It's a pleasure and honor to be part of your endeavor that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I think my first question to you is, an engineer from IIT Delhi,
right?
This whole journey and transition of being an engineer and now becoming a coach yourself and also helping others to become coaches. How did this journey take place? How did this transformation happen?
Okay. So I think there's nothing very great about it. For me, the transition was more business-wise initially. So I was in trainings and we used to do technical training programs and train engineers on technical aspects. And then one fine day, somebody said, why don't you become a coach? And I realized that maybe I can try that. So engineers by default are left-brainers, and I was absolutely a left-brainer, and I believe I'm still
my question.
Okay, yeah. So it just happened as a natural transition for my business. But then when it happened, then it brought a lot of transformations to me. So I could connect it with my way of being. I could connect it with the beliefs and the values that I had been brought up with. So it started resonating with me very nicely. And then I just stayed in the same space. So since then, yeah. So that's how it happened for me.
And how long have you been in this space of coaching?
I've been in this space for last almost 11 years. 2009 is when I became a coach. And since then, I've been here.
Wow, wonderful. So, what is life coaching and who is it for?
Okay. So, I would like to, being a coach trainer and also a coach myself, what I see is that people use terms like life coach, business coach, executive coach, or a career coach. I mean, so for me, it's an adjective in front of the word coach. And but every coaching is basically life coaching because it addresses some aspect of life, whether it's an executive or business or career related stuff. So coaching is about helping people find their own answers, discover their true self, and by asking questions and not giving advice, right? That's the basic definition of coaching as per me. And I believe that everybody needs coaching today because what is stopping us is something which we even don't know. There are blind spots. So we are successful here today in our life, wherever we are, is because of some of the things that are working for us in our life. What is working for us could be our behaviors, habits, beliefs, values. These are some of the programmings which are working for us. And why we are not where we can be, probably there is something which is stopping us from growing. And that's within me. So as a coach, we help people discover that and maybe change them because they're not aware themselves. So first is about creating awareness, maybe leading to some kind of acceptance about life, and then making some actions which can help them change those things. So to answer your question in one line, life coaching is about transforming people by helping them discover their true self, connecting with their own self, and it is for everybody.
So you're saying the coaching is all about asking the right questions, the questions that can take people within and help them find their own answers, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
What happens when we ask the right questions to people? And sometimes people say, well, I don't know.
Right.
So
right.
What happens then? Is the coach supposed to rephrase the question or wait for the client to find the answer with it?
Right. So coach is supposed to ask a better question, I would say. Yeah. So we are getting into more of coaching skills, I think. And coaching skills is not only about asking right questions. There is a whole plethora of other things around it. It's being able to listen well before you ask the right question. It is being able to not judge the client, because what can come in the way of our listening is our judgments. So, so I think there is a lot more than just asking questions,
Sure.
and it requires a lot of practice. Coaches with practice and the right skills, they know what to do when the client says, "I don't know." Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So, how does life coaching help people? I know you talked about them finding answers, getting clarity, clearing out confusions, and set goals and probably achieve those goals. But how does it really happen? Is there a set methodology? Is there a process that we use from session one to the point that they're able to find, their purpose or a goal or whatever that is? Is there a process, or you just play along with the client session after session and see how things are unfolding?
yeah. So as you were asking me this question, there were many thoughts that were coming to my mind. Primarily, it all depends what you want.
Yeah.
Right? In an executive setup, or in a more measured way where you want to demonstrate the results from coaching, it's a good idea to have a process in place, help the client move from A to point B, and you define that in the beginning. And I think the success of any coaching engagement, formal coaching engagement, definitely depends on this, defining what you want in the beginning when you start the engagement. At the same time, coaching works always. So it can be just one session with somebody who's going through some emotional stuff or needs some small clarity around it, helping the person process some information. So it could work there also. So when you're trying to make a concerted effort, when you're doing an engagement of 10, 12 sessions with the client, yes, we need to have a process in place. We need to have some structure in place. And if you are doing one odd session with somebody primarily just to help them get some clarity, then it's just one odd session. Yeah.
Okay. So, is certification important for a life coach? And what does that certification do to that person? Because we have a lot of life coaches out there in the space, but how important is this certification, and why do we need this certification?
Okay, that's also an interesting question. I believe uh, when somebody wants to become a life coach, you need two things. You need one, skills, so that you're competent and be able to bring results for your clients. And second is the credibility. Like, why would somebody come to you, right? How do you know you're? How do I know you're different from somebody else, right?
Right.
So, like, you go to an MBBS doctor, so you know that he's at least gone through some education, some rigor, and stuff like that. Same way in certifications, like when you get certifications, it gives you credibility, and also it makes you a better coach. For example, any certification process will have some learning associated with it, some practice associated with it, some kind of an evaluation or exam that you have to give. I think as human beings, whenever everything we have learned is through the process of repeating. And also, if you remember in the school and college, the amount of time we used to spend learning before the exam was huge, right? That's where the real learnings were also happening. And during the classroom times, we were not as serious in the studies as we were during the exams.
Right.
So, likewise, for a certification, when you are being evaluated, you are getting better prepared, right? And when you get better prepared, you become a better coach.
Right.
So, I think certification works from two perspectives. One, it makes you a better coach because you are going through a process, you are adhering to certain norms, and secondly, it gives you credibility.
Yeah, yeah. So this is great. One is the credibility. The other is that when you sit to become a coach, to get the certification, it's the number of hours you're spending to
That's right.
learn how to be a good coach, and then the practice associated with it. And you're learning from the experts to become a good coach, right? So
Yes.
certification always helps. So tell me about your MCC journey. It's a
Okay.
very tough spot to be in, but you managed to get there. And how did that journey happen?
Okay. So I believe that MCC journey is really a transformational journey for a coach. When I did my first coaching program, I got into coaching space. I got my ACC. I started training people to become coaches. I felt like I've really got transformed. It was a great experience. But then when I went through the MCC journey, it was again a very different kind of transformation that I
Okay.
experienced. My coaching skills um, my coaching skills became much more better. I became a better coach in terms of my own depth of coaching, my own being a better human being, I would say, changed. There was an effort involved. I mean, if your question is on how to get an MCC, I think people see. So there are two aspects of this. People come to coaching and people want to get certified. Fine, great, because they want to look at it as a profession. But after you got first level of certification, the things change. Now you want to get certified for the next levels, uh,
Sure.
also by changing yourself, by becoming a better person.
Right.
So it took me almost like 1.5 years preparation to go
Wow.
for my MCC. I got mentored from three different people. I found that during that mentoring process, I had great learnings. My coaching style changed. The depth came. So yeah, so it's a process. Let it happen for you. Don't rush. That's my advice to people who want to go to the next levels of learning in coaching. Don't rush. Don't go by numbers. Don't tick the boxes. Please focus on how you are evolving as a coach.
Right. Right. So it's a process, and the process has to be steady and slow, like you said. That you have to go through the journey to get to the destination that you want to be at. So I have one more interesting question here.
Okay.
Sometimes people say that why are you only asking questions? Why are you not telling us what we should do?
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
Don't just ask questions, but tell us what to do, and we can do that. So, as coaches, how would you handle that question?
Excellent. So, see, it all depends on how you have started your engagement. So,
Right.
whenever I start my engagement, I spend good half an hour to 1 hour with my client, giving him various aspects of coaching, what it is not, how it works, what am I supposed to do, what is he supposed to do, what are my duties, what are his duties. So, I would spend a lot of time educating my client, right? So, having said that, still the client would, during the process of coaching, may ask me, "Why you tell me about this," right? And I also try to explain. So when I'm doing that session with the client, the first one, I talk about what kind of results coaching brings.
Hmm.
I talk about what is the process that we follow as a coach. I also talk about why we do this, like why coaching works.
Right.
And in that, I explain to the person that if I was to tell you, it may not work for you because that telling is coming from my own programming and my own experience, which is not same as yours. So the amount of value that I can add to you is only by helping you discover yourself, right? So that's where if the client asks me, I tell him, look, boss, I told you earlier, I mean, as a coach, it's not that I'm not supposed to give advice. It's like a law or something. It's because that's not good for the whole process, right? So from that perspective, I do tell him that, sorry, I really can't do that. And then the guy understands. So the thing is, you have to preempt that in the beginning and politely explain to the client that this is it. And I would like to answer this question in another way.
Hmm.
So during the coaching process, majorly because it's something new in the market, and many coaches are going for the ACC level training, the first level of certification. Uh, People think coaching is only about asking questions. That's not absolutely true. Coaching is also about offering observations.
Right.
So as a coach, when you observe, when you listen, when you see, when you assess the client, you can also offer your observations to the client about the client, right? So if you, as an effective coach, are able to do both, offer observations as well as ask questions, uh, client really gets into the conversation and he really understands. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. And like you said that life coaching improves quality of life. Would you
Yeah.
want to say a couple of things on that? How does it improve the quality of life?
Okay, great. I think any coaching would work always and improve the quality of life, whatever the person wants to achieve. People come to get coached for various reasons. And over a period of time, what I've seen is that the results that coaching brings can be categorized into three different levels. First is the awareness. So, coaching creates a lot of awareness for the person about himself, about his situation, what he can do or not do. That's the first thing. So, awareness is more about getting clarity about the things. Second thing, and I call it 3 A's. So first is awareness, and second is about acceptance. So many times people become more aware of what is possible and what is not possible. So we keep struggling to do something in our life, and one coaching session, and suddenly I feel, oh, okay, I think I'm good to go. I'm good with what I have. I don't probably need to struggle in this area of life. Let me accept. So sometimes it's more about acceptance. And third is about action. So many times, and that also happens, and this is a very important part of coaching, that we help the client create some actions at the end of the session. Then we ask him how he did with those actions. Then we help him create more actions, and like that, over a period of time, as he continues to act on those actions for a year-long process, he changes. So I think the results that coaching can bring for somebody can be summed up into three parts, 3 A's. It can raise awareness, it can help people accept things, or it can bring a lot of actions which can bring results for them. So that's my one way of answering your question.
Well, that's a fantastic answer that gives so much clarity and so much understanding about how life coaching can help anybody and how it can improve the quality of life.
Thank you.
So, I at this point, and I would go on talking to you and asking you questions, but we have the restriction of time. So I want to know, what are those 3 greatest ideas that you can share with our audience that can help them have a better life or transform in their existing life situations? What are those 3 great ideas?
Okay. So I think so when you say the audience, I'm assuming that there could be people who are coaches or who want to become coaches. So I'll share some ideas for them, and then some for people who are not coaches and don't want to become coaches. Okay. So for coaches, I think the best advice I can give them is that they don't need to judge their clients. So if they can master the art of not judging their clients and not judging themselves, that will make them listen better. And if they can listen better, that will make them ask better questions and offer better observations. So as a coach, if you really want to upskill yourself, improve your skills, focus on not judging your clients and not judging yourself. Now, what is judging and not judging? So I always say you can assess, because if you don't assess the situation, how will you move the client forward? So difference between assessing and judging is the difference between the data and opinion. So there's a data being brought to you. When you add your own experience to the data, you make an opinion out of it, right? So data is assessing and opinion is judging. So as coaches, we don't want to judge our clients. And the moment we become less judgmental, we are able to listen better, and we are able to ask better questions and offer better observations. So this is my tip for the coaches who want to improve their skills.
Let me do a recap for our
Okay.
audience. So for coaches who are in the making and who want to be coaches, don't judge yourself and don't judge your clients.
Right.
Ask better questions.
Yes.
Make good assessments and offer good observations.
That's right.
Right? So,
and and be a good listener.
Be a good listener. Of course, that is one of the most important traits that we should develop and have as coaches. Great. Right. So what are your 3 tips for people who are, just trying to make their lives better?
Okay. So my first tip is get a coach in your life that who can help you. That's for sure. And also try and bringing coaching skills in your day-to-day life. Now, what is a coaching skill? Ask open-ended questions. Whenever you have a urge to tell something, hold on. Try and holding on to your thought. Just ask the question, and then tell if you want to tell. I mean, this is for starting, because when you ask, you engage the other person. The accountability gets transferred to the other person. The other person is much more committed when it is his decision, right? Sure. And when you tell, the accountability stays with you. The other person will go and do the thing, but then he'll come back and say, "You only told me," whatever the results. So hold on before telling. You're not trained, so one tip is simply hold on, ask once, and then tell if you really want to tell. That's one. Second, of course, is don't judge people. That's the biggest learn I would like to share. And the third I would say is avoid asking why questions. Whenever you talk to people, be it at work, at home, with the children, with your family, anybody, try and rephrase your why questions into how and what questions. So don't ask why. When you ask the why question to the first person, it tends to put the other person in an awkward situation. It shows your judgment. People become defensive. It hurts the basic nature of being a human being. So avoid asking why questions in the first place to the first person. You can ask why questions for a situation or a third person, but not for the first person. Okay. So these are some of the tips.
Okay, so let me do a recap of that. Some wonderful tips here. Number 1, get a coach. Everybody needs a coach.
Yes.
Adopt coaching skills in your day-to-day life. Ask open-ended questions every time you're having a conversation with people. That will give you more information, more insight, more knowledge, and avoid asking the why question,
Absolutely.
especially in the first person situation.
Yes.
And these are some wonderful tips, and I'm sure that our viewers are going to love these tips and use these tips to make their lives and communications better. And thank you so much for being on this show, Inderjeet, and it was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Samira. It was a pleasure to be with you. You are a very present personality. Thank you so much for that.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.